So we want to go ahead and get started here. My name is Eugene Collins. I'm the president of the Baton Rouge branch of the NAACP. And today we're here to shed light on a case that was brought to us by this caretaker, Ms. LaToya Porter, in which she was caring for a young lady that made report after report after report of sexual abuse for a number of years, what we know to be at least a decade, and the Department of Children and Family Services never followed up on those complaints competently. About a year ago, Ms. Porter begun making complaints herself, and she filed an excess of 8 complaints, which we believe totals about 10 complaints that were never answered on, never followed up on, and the complaint was not sustained until Ms. Porter actually decided to come out and make this issue public. Then those reports started to be sustained. After that, the NAACP, working along with some of its partners, developed a document in which some of you got. And we circulated that document to ensure that you guys were made aware that this situation was going on and that this young lady had been going unheard for some time. This young lady was abused by rapist, alleged rapist, John Mack, as well as she's making allegations that she was sold into sex parties, as well as sex trafficked throughout this state. Ms. Porter has come to us in a fearless nature to make sure that this child is heard and make sure that justice is not only served with Mr. John Mack, but those who did not follow up on the complaints. And the Department of Children and Family Services, we believe, should be held accountable for never following up on those complaints. But in recent news, you're seeing as a kid in New Orleans that was burned that the multiple complaints were made. This agency also went to a school outside of Lafayette and picked up the wrong kid. This is a bad agency. And this is an agency that should be held accountable, especially when we talk about this young lady and all of the trials and tribulation that she went through as being a part of this sexual abuse that could have been prevented if they had only answered the complaint. So we stand here in support of Ms. Porter today because she has done so much and went above and beyond to ensure that this young lady's voice was heard.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the NAACP, the advocates, investigator Arthur Reed, and so many others who shed light to this unfortunate tragedy. I'm Attorney Ben Crump, along with Attorney Kim Davis of Levin Papatonia law firm. We have the privilege to represent these young girls, these babies. Mr. President, I mean, these babies, ages 16 and 18 years old, who have had to endure one of the worst nightmares you could ever imagine on these 2 little black girls. These 2 little black girls who was the victim to this white man and his accomplices, whether that be the people who participated at the sex parties,
That's right,
who helped traffic them from here to New Orleans and back and forth, or those who were complicit in the conspiracy to cover this up. That is the people in positions of authority in local and state government, who at best was grossly negligent and at worst was willful in turning a blind eye to the plight of these little girls who were screaming out for help. I mean, it's documented. You can look at it, them screaming out for help, 2014. And continuously telling people that we're being abused, help us. But their cries for help were not given any credence. It was almost as if they had no voice until LaToya Porter, really stopped and said, we're not gonna have this anymore. We're not going to let these black girls suffer at the hands of these white men anymore. And so she's somewhat of an angel for these girls, KM and JF, because God knows without her intervention, without her advocacy, without the NAACP and without the advocates saying no more, what would have happened to these little girls? And she's going to tell you from a first-hand perspective what was likely to happen had there not been intervention, and how they still are concerned that the powers that be want to try to sweep this under the rug. So I am here to make sure we fight in the court of law and the court of public opinion to make sure that these little black girls now have a voice against this abomination. I don't even call it a crime. It's abomination when you do this to children. You know, I think in many ways, had these not been little black girls, they would have heeded their warning long ago, their cries for help. Because just imagine, this is akin to what Jeffrey Epstein was being accused of. Louisiana's version of Jeffrey Epstein, where you got little young girls being sex trafficked for wealthy white men. Only difference in that picture seems to be that here you had two little black girls in Louisiana. So we have to refuse to remain silent. We cannot be silent because our silence is betrayal to these two beautiful black princesses.
That's right.
It is absolute betrayal. And so I'm so thankful to those who said, we're not going to let them suffer in silence anymore. I'm so thankful to LaTanya for coming forward, for saying that we're going to make sure we protect these babies.
That's right.
I'm thankful to the NAACP for saying we're going to use our leadership to call them out and not let them sweep it under the rug. I'm thankful to the Advocate newspaper for covering this story and saying that, no, this has to get out. And I know since we've been getting the calls now from New York and everywhere else in the media that people are going to finally pay attention to the cries of these babies, because LaTanya knows if we didn't do something, this just wouldn't be sex trafficking injustice. It was likely to be a life or death situation. And so at this time, LaTanya Porter, the hero for these girls, and she's not asking for this acclaim because she just did it because it's the right thing to do. You know, Silky, the thing I question is, where were the people in DCF and the state agencies who just said, we got to do the right thing? Why didn't they do like LaTanya Porter? Why were they so afraid? Because obviously, at best it was gross negligence. At worst, it was willful neglect. And the question is why? We're going to get to the truth, and we don't care if lightning has to strike or thunder has to roll. These babies will get justice. These black princesses will get justice. And so they can start getting the help they need to heal. I give you Miss LaTanya Porter to tell you what she discovered.
Good morning. Thank everybody for being here. And most importantly, I want to thank the gentleman behind me, because I feel so protected in this environment, which is something that when we started this journey, we just did not have. We started this journey over a year ago, just trying to get a little girl in our care heard. And in doing so, we came into contact with her sister, who had similar stories, and trying to get both of them heard, and also trying to figure out why it wasn't heard, why no one was being involved, like why everything was going on deaf ears. For me, it became very personal when we, as mandated reporters, began to go down the list of what we're supposed to do. You know, the Louisiana Children's Code outlines that, and we began to do that and make report after report, and, you know, just believing in our system, thought that something was going to be done. Keep in mind, when we first interacted with these girls, they were terrified to speak. They said some people are too powerful to be touched. And I said, oh, no, they're not too powerful. We're going to get justice. And as we began to work through this case, we began to see exactly why they felt that. It wasn't just something that they thought, it was actually something that was being shown every single day, even in our workspace, as we began to make reports to law enforcement, make reports to DCFS, and nothing was being done and no one was being listening to them. For us, it kind of became a very everything was solidified for us when I myself communicated with the sheriff in my parish, and he asked if he could arrange a meeting with the alleged rapist, Mr. John Mack, and my victim, my client. That's when I realized that we were dealing with like something of a whole new caliber, something that was very nefarious and concerning. And it began to make sense on why things were not being followed up on, why we were begging, you know, Department of Children and Family Services to get involved, and repeatedly nothing was happening. For us, this was not just a everyday client. This was a child who has said to us, I know when I leave here, I will have to go back to them, and I'm not going to that hell again, and I'm just going to kill myself. So for us, it was life and death. For us, it was, oh my God, what are we going to do? And every single day we look in the face and say, we're going to beat this, that somebody's going to listen to you. And every single day we were turned down. The NAACP will tell you, I did not want to talk about this publicly. I did not want this type of media attention because it's just not who I am. But it wasn't until we reached out to the NAACP and the Office of Human Trafficking that we got any type of assistance repeatedly from DCFS, and it's documented. We're telling them, she's telling them, I'm not going to allow myself to go back to hell. That's how she classifies it, hell. And that we should be okay, that after she leaves here that she's gonna die. She had resolved to making us okay with the fact that she was going to die, because she knew they would return her to that environment. And so for us, it was just unacceptable, and we just kept pushing forward. And after getting the NAACP involved with not only just our concerns as mandated reporters, because here we have Mr. Mack coming to the facility aggressively trying to gain access to her, and we have other children at our facility, and we literally left in the middle of the night and came to the NAACP, and that's where we found Haven. And so for us, this is about her getting justice and her sister getting justice. Her sister is just as strong as she is. And these girls tell their stories. And now that people are listening, it is our hope that they can get justice, and the people that are involved that have hurt them, that have stood by and watched them be hurt, or use their positions to cover up the hurt, that those people be held accountable. Anyone that refused to investigate these reports, because we're not the only entity that made multiple reports. These reports should be looked into thoroughly. As mandated reporters, anybody can look it up. The Louisiana Children's Code, it dictates to us how we're supposed to report, and not reporting is a criminal act. We need to be clear about that. And so what happens when you report and the agency responsible for the report does not follow up and do their part? As mandated reporters, we should never be in a position to have to make a legal versus moral ethical decision. It's unfair. it's unsafe. You know, in our situation, every single day, we had to come to work sometimes and say, you know what, is this going to be the day where we got to cover her with a blanket and run out the building to keep her safe because they're going to come get her. This was our life. So my staff is here with us. This was our life. Literally, we had a whole evacuation plan for this child because we were determined to protect her and her sister, who wasn't in our facility, but we have been involved with. And so we are committed to seeing this through. We want to protect all children, but I want the people that hurt these girls to be held accountable. Every last one of them held accountable.
And it's very appropriate when you look at LaTonya's shirt, "Protect Our Girls."
That's right.
We have to protect our girls. We have to protect these black girls who the system seem content with allowing implicit bias to violate the policies and procedures that were set in place to protect all girls in the state of Louisiana. And so I think LaTonya Porter and her staff for saving her life, because she told everybody who would listen.
Everybody.
That
That she was going to kill herself. If she was made to leave and go back with them, she was not going back to hell. And it's documented. She said it. She didn't hide it. It's documented.
And you heard what she told LaTonya? Some people are too big to touch. Well, not today.
That's right, brother.
They will be touched today. And we're gonna make sure that these girls know that this is America and we have justice for all.
That's right.
And we're gonna make sure of it. So we will take some of your questions. We'll take some of your questions.
President McClanahan and
President McClanahan.
Ricky Peoples.
Good morning, Mike McClanahan, NAACP, Louisiana State Conference President, National Board Member. People should feel comfortable in coming to the NAACP when you're seeking help. Since 1909, we've been out here fighting, and we're going to continue to fight till hell freezes over, because we know that you have these unscrupulous, low-down cats like John Mack and others doing what they want to do. But let them know we ain't scared. When we say we fight, we win, we mean it.
Amen.
There's nobody too powerful that the NAACP can't reach. Our tentacles alone, when Ms. Porter came to us, we were comfortable. We said, don't worry about it. We're going to wrap you in our arms. We're going to take care of you and the babies, because she knew that her life was in danger too. Power doesn't concede power. We bring power to their knees. This young man, this old man, John Mack, and all his friends, you get him, you get all of them. They run together like in packs like dogs. You find one dog, you find the other one. I want them to know he will never run free again, because the system was made for everybody. If we would get one low-down cat that has messed with a young girl, she'd get them all. We're going to let him know that wherever he's at now, he can sit there till he have his day in court. But we want him to know justice will prevail. These young ladies will not have to live in fear. They will not have to say, well, I want to kill myself to be free of this. No. They should know and feel free to know and understand that the justice system will take care of them the way it takes care of everybody. I want to thank Attorney Ben Crump for coming down and said, yes, I'll be a part of that. Sometimes these cases, people say, it's too big for me. I can't handle it. But we know there are some persons that it's not too big for, such as Attorney Ben Crump. He came down, he brought my friend Arthur Silky Slim Reed down, and we're gonna stand behind not only this young lady, but all others that fit into this mold. Let them know we're here, we stand tall.
Yes, sir.
We stand tall, and we're gonna stand tall. Not only do we stand tall, but let them know we carry a big stick, it's called justice.
Hi, my name is Ricky Peoples. After hearing the call from Eugene a couple of months ago about what's happening to Ms. Porter, what goes on with our black girls don't need to go unnoticed. We shouldn't have turned our blind eye when it comes to our black women, our black children. This injustice, I'm sure it's been going on for a long time, And I heard it say that the powers that be, they too powerful, but hell, we fight everybody. So when we fight, we do win. But I do want to set a notice that every black woman should be still be outraged about what's going on in the state of Louisiana, because at the end of the day, we got to protect our black girls. I have 4 black daughters that I would kick down doors behind. And with it, it's just, I mean, I'm upset right now because I'm hearing about the kids talking about killing themselves. It don't make any sense. It don't make any sense at all. But I'm here, I'm standing with Ms. Porter, and anytime she need me, I'm coming, and I'm right up the road. Thank you.
Amen.
Oh, I'm his child.
So we'll take some of your questions.
Attorney Crump, how concerning is it that the alleged John Mack is the uncle of state representative and a local city councilman where some of these crimes are alleged to have happened?
It's of great concern because, as the young girls said to Ms. Porter, some people are too big to touch. What did she mean by that? What has happened in the past over all these years to make this sexual predator go escape and elude justice? And so it is of great concern, and we pray that everybody will be transparent and nobody will try to conceal what has taken place or try to conspire to protect anybody. Because imagine if this was your daughter.
That's right.
Imagine if this was your daughter as early as 7, 8 years old, being molested by grown men, being made to perform sexual acts by grown men. What would you want? And that's the same thing that our community is crying out for our black girls.
Can you shed any light on the incidents that took place in Orleans Parish?
Hold just one second. What did you?
I wanted to say, in conjunction to what Attorney Crump said, it is very concerning because something allowed John Mack to feel that he was untouchable. This is a gentleman that came to our facility that had the gall to go to the sheriff's office and say, I need a meeting, knowing that he had just been accused of rape. You don't get that type of brazen authority, so to speak, without some type of protection. We dealt with Mr. Mack coming to our facility, calling the police on him, and he would still come. And something gave him the protection that he felt that he was untouchable. And that is why it became very easy for us to say, okay, what exactly is that? I don't know. But I know if I was the niece of an uncle being accused of such atrocious things, I would be reaching out to the attorneys involved to say, hey, what can I do to help?
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, the question, can you shed any light on how, how this originated or not originated? In the early days, there were cases inside of Orleans Parish that went through former Attorney General Canavero's office. Can you shed some light on what happened there in New Orleans? Because there are some forensic reports that still need to come out, correct?
Exactly. Attorney Kim Adams and I are now starting to dig. We don't know if anybody has ever dug to try to get to the crux of the matter. What was the origin of this conspiracy? I know LaTanya has been invaluable, but remember, she was just made aware of it in the last 2 years. And so what happened in 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and just imagine all the years that went on when these little girls said, nobody cares. Nobody cares. I mean, they talked about telling the investigators about the sex games in 2014, but yet they were sent back to the same hell to continue to be raped by grown white men. These little girls tell very vivid accounts of what happened, when it happened, and they're all very consistent. And so if you're an investigator, the bells should have just been going off. The bell should have been everywhere. Hey, we got a problem. These little girls have been sexually molested. They've been sexually trafficked. But yet, they kept sending them back to that hell, to the point where she told LaTanya, they send me back, I will kill myself before I go back and let them continue to rape me.
So you said you're starting to dig into the case. What do you see as like the biggest unanswered questions, and what are some key details that you hope to come out during discovery?
The biggest question in my mind is exactly what I said. At best, it is gross negligence. At the hands of the state of Louisiana Department of Children and Families and the agencies. At worst, it was willful neglect. They looked the other way intentionally because they did not want to go up against what I guess they perceived as very powerful men. And so that is where we're digging. What were the failures and why were there failures? And we absolutely intend, as the president said, to make sure that this sexual predator, John Mack, is held fully accountable for raping these young black girls and anybody else
That's right.
who participated in the sex parties in New Orleans.
Do you think there are other agencies that need to be held accountable, like law enforcement, for example?
You know, when I get involved in a case, we are gonna make sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed. And anybody who failed to protect these young black girls who had an obligation to do so will be held accountable. We will bring civil lawsuits against everybody who is involved to make sure that these young girls get the justice that they deserve, because it never should have gotten to this point. One time was too many, but dozens of times was just.
And I think too that there are other people out there. This is not something that Mr. Mack and his reign of terror and his organization just started. What I hope is that other people that have been victims of his will begin to come forward, and that we hold the media to a standard of continuing to show his face. So that people can feel protected. For me, I got protection running in the middle of the night to the NAACP. I was afraid. Eugene and Mr. Mike can tell you, but that gave us a sense of protection. And so I want other young girls, whether they are adults now or still children, to know that Mr. Crump and the NAACP here, they're willing to protect you, and that you don't have to be afraid, because these people are not too powerful to be touched, and you can come forward and tell your story and your experience with this family.
That's a great point that LaTanya makes, because a lot of people out there who have been afraid to come forward. And I'm so thankful to Mike and Eugene, these strong black men standing up for our black women, saying, no, we will protect you. You won't be standing alone. So if you're out there, we are asking you to come forward. If you've ever been, abused by John Mack, come forward. If you are distrustful of law enforcement, come forward to the NAACP. You have strong advocates
Absolutely.
in the NAACP that have a track record of standing for those who have been disenfranchised and victimized and dehumanized. Come forward. You won't be alone. We will help you. We'll take a couple more questions.
The sheriff, when we ran our initial story, said there simply wasn't enough evidence there to prosecute, to bring charges or anything. You said that they didn't even come out and interview anyone involved in this case. Has that since changed? Have you seen any movement that anything is actually being done on this? Or?
Not very many law enforcement talk to us. I think they've been a bit intimidated by the presence of our support now. the investigating entities, Livingston Parish, they have not come and spoken with us. We've not been questioned about the things that she shared with us. No changes on that front. Even with the sister, just speaking with her before, her and her father before we came on, they haven't been talked to either.
As far as the family aspect of John Mack, has there been any new evidence that y'all have been able to maybe turn up that directly points a finger to them, say, hey, they were involved in this?
We've just begun our investigations, and so we will continue to do our investigations, and as we receive and discover information, we'll put it in our pleadings.
Is that maybe one of the targets to see if that was absolutely a part of this?
No, we're looking at everything, because as KM says, some people are too big to touch, and we want to know why he felt he couldn't be touched. Why was he so arrogant and cavalier to continue this reign of terror for so many years, and then after he was even arrested, continue to come back to the facility? And so we plan on looking into all of those aspects of this case. And so we don't want to say anything that we don't have evidence to support.
Right.
And so we're very careful to only talk about stuff we know. And what we do know is these little girls are very vivid, and they have great details, and when you hear their stories, a lot of people will be implicated. And last question.
I know we're here to speak about the traumatic experience that's happened to these young girls, but you yourself have obviously experienced also some tragic experiences by hearing these stories. How have you been through this whole process?
Definitely connected to my Lord and Savior. Like, it's been very traumatizing for everybody, not just for me. We have a real strong group that, I mean, sometimes we're there late at night, 8, 9 o'clock, just trying to process everything. Not only that, we have other kids that, you know, are around each other, and they share those same fear. You know, when Mr. Mack came to the facility with flashlights looking, you know, everyone was like, you know, we got to protect her, protect her, protect her. So everybody was afraid and concerned. For us, it's been a emotional journey. It has been a scary journey because, you know, sometimes we worry about the powers that be and what they can do to us. I feel like God has put us on a path that we have to stay forward. And like I've said from the beginning, I have to go every day and look her in her face and tell her things are going to be okay. And I intend to be able to keep that promise to her.
Thank you all so much. We'll keep you updated.
Thank you.